A Canadian truck driver who is not fully vaccinated can't be denied entry into Canada. Rob asks, so I'm from the UK. Tell me what the basis from the protest is. I assume you're trying to say what the basis for the protest is. Where do I begin? Okay. If you're just coming into this now, let's give you a little quick summary on what is going on. Right now, you have, after 3 weeks of these occupiers in downtown Ottawa harassing people that live there, honking their horns all day, all night.
It's 6:54 in the morning in Ottawa, and this is what the residents of Ottawa have to deal with every single morning. What about their freedom?
That was just 14 seconds. That's been going on for 3 weeks. In here, getting, at least some of them getting arrested if they were refusing to leave. So far, it's been a peaceful arresting. It has not been tear gas and riot gear. So that's what's currently happening. They're getting arrested. Now, what are these protesters, or I should say occupiers? Why are they there? It depends on who you ask. So some of them, let's start with the organizers. The organizers, these are the organizers. You have someone that shares QAnon crap, someone that claims the Liberal Party, who I do not support, by the way. I'm not a Liberal Party voter, but this person claims the party is infested with Islamists, which is stupid and ridiculous and bigoted, obviously. Jason LaFace says, linked to racist Soldiers of Odin, so that is a far right-wing group in Canada. Tamar Lynch, Alberta separatist, member of Yellow Vest. Yellow Vest in Canada is a racist group. It's not a pro-worker group the way it is in France. Yellow Vest and racist Clarion Project. And Pat King, Alberta separatist, who warns of Anglo-Saxon replacement. More racism. So these are the organizers. There may be one trucker here. I forget which one it is, but they're not truckers. This is not a working class trucker protest. They are not raising issues of wage theft that working class truckers face. They are not raising issues of being misclassified as contractors as opposed to being employees. That way their boss skirts regulators and treats them poorly, and they have other issues that deal with that in terms of lack of safety regulations and that kind of thing when they are contractors. So none of these issues are being raised in this so-called, by some people, working class trucker convoy, because it is not about a working class trucker convoy. That's not what it is. It is largely a way to funnel brainwashed individuals about, they have conspiracies about the vaccine, about masks, about mandates, funnel them into this far right-wing movement. That's what they have tried to do. That's what the People's Party of Canada tried to do during the election last year. That's what this movement is currently trying to do. And so if you ask people that are there, a lot of these people that are a part of this, that are not the organizers, think this is simply about freedom, about ending the mandates. We want to be able to go to restaurants without having, a vaccine. We want to be able to, work at a hospital or school without being vaccinated. So there are limited vaccine mandates in Canada. If you work at a school, if you work at a hospital, if you're trying to cross the border as a trucker, there's mandates. 90% of truckers are vaccinated. The vast majority of truckers are not in this. There's roughly, I think, 230,000 truckers in Canada. There's maybe, a couple dozen trucks downtown here. So we're talking about a tiny, tiny minority of people. A lot of the truckers that are there are the bosses of other actual working class truckers. These are the capitalists that are down there. I shared earlier this piece from Passage. This trucker convoy is not a workers' revolt. I will link to this. All right, I linked to it earlier, but I'll link to it now in the chat in case you missed it earlier. If you want to read that, share that around. That gives you a great breakdown of who's actually in this convoy, what it's about. Again, it's not about the working class truckers. This writer here, Adam D.K. King, has done a lot of research well before this about issues facing working class truckers, and none of that is being addressed with this convoy. So it's largely been the people that have joined it. We're talking about the brainwashed Facebook people. So, there's a microchip in the vaccine, or they're trying to control our lives, or, our freedoms are being taken away. We're China now. Like, all that bullshit is part of this. You see a lot of F Trudeau signs. The organizers have called to remove Justin Trudeau, remove his government. Somehow, that's a health measure. So, again, not about health measures. So, funneling these people into a far-right message, be like, hey, you're against the mask mandate, you're against these vaccines, well, let's get rid of Trudeau. So that's the attempt here, to try and funnel these people into this more far-right, completely brainless message. And people that have joined this are ripe for that because they've already been fooled by the shit they've read online on Facebook about vaccines, about masks, about COVID-19. So that is why they prey on individuals like this, because these are the people that are easy to convince. So hopefully that's kind of a good breakdown on the entire situation. We got a super chat here. Thank you for your generous super chat, Eric. Eric Dioit says, wouldn't a good compromise be vax or test? If the convoy rejects it, then wouldn't they look unreasonable? So my understanding is that at one point that was the case. I have to look into this again, because I don't even think this is necessarily about the truckers per se, as it is about needing to be vaccinated across the border. This is the actual from Canada.ca, which oddly enough used to be a media website. And Canada, I guess, took it back. But here you go. So that's an aside that doesn't matter at all. But so on November 19th, we announced that as of January 15th, certain categories of travelers who are currently exempt from entry requirements will only be allowed to enter the country if they are fully vaccinated with one of the vaccines approved for entry into Canada. These groups include several essential service providers, including truck drivers. Let us be clear, this has not changed. The information shared yesterday was provided in error. Our teams have been in touch with industry representatives to ensure they have the correct information. This is also important. A Canadian truck driver who is not fully vaccinated can't be denied entry into Canada. Canadian citizens, persons registered as Indians under the Indian Act, and permanent residents may enter Canada by right. As announced in November, and as we've communicated with the industry recently, starting the 15th, unvaccinated Canadian truck drivers entering Canada will need to meet requirements for pre-entry, arrival and day 8 testing, as well as quarantine requirements. The final decision regarding entry and quarantine is made by a government representative at the port of entry based on the information presented to them at the time. Any individual who is symptomatic upon arrival to Canada will be directed to the Public Health Agency of Canada official and will be directed to isolate for 10 days from the time they enter Canada. As of the 15th again, unvaccinated or partially vaccinated foreign national truck drivers coming to Canada from the U.S. by land will be directed back to the U.S. To qualify as a fully vaccinated traveler and to enter Canada, foreign national truck drivers must have received at least 2 doses of a vaccine accepted for travel, a mix of 2 accepted vaccines, or at least 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson. The Janssen & Johnson? You guys really messed that one up. The Janssen & Johnson. Sorry, is there a Janssen vaccine too? The Janssen/Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I'm lost. Okay. Have received their second dose at least 14 full days before they enter Canada. For example, if a driver received their second dose anytime on Saturday, the January 1st, then Sunday, January 16th would be the first day they would meet the 14-day condition. And they've submitted all required COVID-19 information into Arrive Canada. So this is really about American truck drivers. If you are Canadian, now, not completely. If you are Canadian, a Canadian truck driver, you can, unvaccinated, cross into the border, cross into Canada. But you need, I think, you need like a test, and you potentially have to isolate. They will need to meet requirements for pre-entry, arrival, and day 8 testing. So they have to test immediately. I assume that's a rapid test. And then day 8 testing, maybe again a rapid test or a what's it called, a PCR test, a proper test. So as well as quarantine requirements. So it may still disrupt their job because they have to quarantine. So even though they can still cross into the border, they still may be impacted by not being vaccinated because they have to quarantine. But so it's really about American truck drivers because you're just turned away. So, which also gets into the American element of this in terms of the fundraising and what's been going on there. And we saw like building a border here. So we saw with the data that was leaked from the second fundraising site that was taking donations for this convoy, that more than half of the number of donations were from Americans. That said, more money was from Canadians. So I think it was like 4.3 million from Canadians compared to like 3.6 million for Americans. But the number of donations was more from Americans than Canadians. But, you know, that part of it is, I don't know, in some ways less, it matters less to me as it's really about, I guess, the big donations and where those came from. And of course, a lot of that was anonymous at the time. But I know I think there was like the biggest donation to the convoy, in the one that was leaked, the second website, was from I think like a tech billionaire in Silicon Valley. He gave I think he gave like 90,000. So, you know, this is not any stories about like, you know, I don't know, Russian influence or all that shit. That's stupid. Like no, we have enough conspiracy and crazy crap in Canada for us to fund our own crazies. Thank you very much. Like we don't need outside donations to fund this insanity. We have enough of our own. So, yeah, I mean, if anything, it exposed that this really was not, you know, foreign interference. It really was largely, you know, Canadian born because most of the money came from Canada into this convoy.